It's been about 2 years since I moved into this house, and if you remember, I replaced all of this lighting in my kitchen with Tuya-based lights from Lumary. And while they've worked well for a while, they've started to become a problem. And the typical solution of turning them off and turning them back on just isn't working anymore. And for a lot of us, the worst part of a project like this is going to be updating the automations. Except in this smart home, as soon as I remove the old lights and add the new ones, my kitchen lighting automation gets updated automatically. Automating the boring stuff doesn't get much easier than this. This is the Lutron Diva Smart Dimmer and remote, which will be perfect for this project. Up until this point, I've used Lutron's Caseta line exclusively. The difference really is appearance. The Caseta dimmer line is a button style switch. The Diva is a paddle style. And for the kitchen, where I have other paddle switches, the Diva won't look out of place. This kit is also packing the redesigned Pico remote, which now looks just like the main switch. Plus, right now, there's some deals going on where you can get as much as 20% off on some of Lutron's lineup. I'll put some links in the description so you can check them out when you get done watching this video, because you'll want to stick around. This Diva dimmer and new Pico remote pack a hidden feature, which we're going to talk about in a bit. First, let's get this thing swapped out. In full disclosure, this kit was sent to me for the purpose of checking out the new Pico remote design. But I'm not being paid a fee for this video, and in fact, this is the first time I've ever collaborated with Lutron. All of my Lutron devices up to this point have been bought by me, because I'm a Lutron fan. Anyway, this box tells me that installing this Diva Smart Dimmer is going to take about 15 minutes. For a professional electrician, that might be accurate, but I'm not an electrician, or a professional. So if you're not comfortable installing something like this yourself, hire a professional. For those of you that do this, be sure to turn the power off at the breaker. And always double check the power with this glowy wand thing, because everything in a game box like this might not be on the same breaker. Believe me, I was shocked to find that out once at my previous house. In this house, I'm replacing a 3-way switch setup that consists of 2 single pole paddle switches, literally separated by about 8 feet. I start with removing the faceplates, and I pull out both switches so I can get a better look at what I have behind them. The previous owner modded the switch cover so it would fit. Nice. Before you disconnect anything, take note of what is where. You need to identify the common wire, the traveler wires in the case of a 3-way setup like this, and the ground. And keep in mind that the colors of the wires might not be what you're expecting. The beauty of this Diva dimmer is it doesn't require a neutral, which is good because it appears I don't have one in this gang box. Now that I think I understand what is what, the blue on the Diva switch isn't going to be used, so I just put a nut on it. The others just wire up based on the instructions included with the dimmer. Common to black, travelers to red, ground to ground. Then we can get the switch screwed into the box. Before moving on, I decide to do a test. So I head down to the dungeon and turn the breaker on. I head back up to the kitchen, and there you go. The dimmer is working. Oh, and those 2 Lumary lights still won't come on. Anyway, back down to the dungeon to cut the breaker once more, and then on to the Pico remote. Replacing a single pole switch with a Pico remote is pretty simple. We just need to remove the old switch. Then we're going to put a nut on the ground, and all of the other remaining wires get put together, minus the neutral. This is, of course, replacing the second switch in a 3-way switch setup. Anyway, we can put this little plastic bracket in, slide on the Pico remote, and then replace the faceplate. Now we can head back into the dungeon, flip on the breaker, and it didn't immediately trip, so good job. Now, you may be asking why Lutron and not Z-Wave or Zigbee. It's not that I'm opposed to Z-Wave switches. In fact, there's a Z-Wave switch in this gang box. But Lutron has an edge, I think, and that's because they've had multi-admin since before Matter made it a thing. And that is because Lutron Caseta devices require a hub. But this hub allows you to connect your Lutron devices directly to multiple smart home platforms at the same time, including Home Assistant, which connects to the Lutron hub over your local network. It doesn't go through the cloud. So I consider that hub a bonus, because Z-Wave devices can only connect to a single hub. If Home Assistant goes down, I can't reach any of my Z-Wave devices, even from other platforms, without having to repair them to a new platform. But I would be able to control all of my Lutron devices from the other multiple platforms that are already in my home, including the Apple Home, Google Home, and Amazon, as well as my Home Assistant beta instance, which has my Lutron devices connected directly to it as well. And then, of course, you have reliability. Of all the smart home devices I've bought over the last almost 9 years, I have yet to have a Lutron device fail on me, or force me to set it up again. So, based on that, my first choice for wall switches as of today is Lutron. And I know getting started can be a bit of an issue because Lutron is a bit pricey compared to Z-Wave options out there. And like I said earlier, there's some deals going on right now until the 26th of March. And in some cases, you could get 20% off, which is a pretty good deal, I think, on some of these Lutron kits. So if you've ever been interested in getting started with Lutron, I would check them out. But let's get to wrapping up this project. So now that I have my Lutron Smart Diva Dimmer installed, as well as the Pico remote, all I have to do is swap out these Lumary LEDs with these LED retrofits from Sunco, which I found on Lutron's compatible device list. And the kitchen lighting goes from this to this. I had also mentioned a hidden feature that you might not know about. For this Diva Smart Dimmer, it has this little slider along the side, standard interface for a lot of these dimmers. But it can act as a preset. So if we set it here, when we turn on the lights with a single click, it will turn on to that preset. And if we click it again, it will go to full brightness. And if the light is off, a double tap on top will take the lights to full bright. The same goes for that Diva Style Pico remote. A single press on goes to the preset, and a double tap goes right to full bright. Pretty cool feature, I think, for times in which you need to fondle a light switch. But in this house, everything light related is automated assistant. If you want to see the steps required to get the hub set up, check out the video linked in the description. The hub is easy to integrate, and again, the connection is over your local network. Adding the devices is pretty simple. The app walks you through the steps, and as soon as you add them and pick a room, then you just need to jump into Home Assistant. If you already have your hub integrated, then you just need to head to the Lutron integration. Here it shows I have 7 devices, and if we hit reload to pull in the new ones, now I have 9. And you can see the kitchen lights and the kitchen Pico are listed here. With the Pico remote, you may have to go in and enable the entities if you want to be able to use them from Home Assistant. But for these remotes, I typically don't bother. Now, the worst part of switching out lighting like this is having to go back and update any automations. Except, like I said in the intro, not in this smart house. As soon as I reloaded the Lutron integration and pulled those devices into Home Assistant, my kitchen automation was aware of the new devices. There's nothing else for me to do. And in fact, you can see the device already being touched by my automation. And if you want to learn how that's done, check out this video right here, because automating the boring stuff doesn't get any easier than that.